I'm coming on to say it is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then of worrying about her and fearing for her and aching for her. And most of all, just missing her, just missing her. We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return. And we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home.
Two months into the Nancy Guthrie case, the most important update is not a dramatic breakthrough. It is something quieter, but still very significant. As of April 1st, local coverage in Arizona says the case has now reached day 60. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Authorities still believe she was taken against her will, and no public suspect has been named. In the past 2 days, officials also moved to shut down one point of public confusion by saying that a woman found in a Scottsdale canal has no apparent connection to Nancy's case, and local coverage repeated a warning from the Pima County Sheriff's Department that there is no official GoFundMe or fundraising effort tied to the investigation. At the same time, NBC announced that Savannah Guthrie will return to the Today Show on April 6th, while the search remains unresolved. And that combination tells you exactly where this case stands right now. Active, emotionally devastating, closely watched, but still without a public answer. And that matters because after a case has been in the public eye this long, people often start expecting one of two things. They expect either a major break or a collapse in attention. But this case has done neither. It has remained in a tense middle ground where the public record is serious, the official concern is obvious, and yet the investigation has not produced the kind of public resolution people naturally expect after this much time. The FBI's own materials still describe Nancy Guthrie as a vulnerable adult who has difficulty walking, has a pacemaker, and needs daily medication for a heart condition. Or the Bureau's public notices also say the Phoenix Field Office and the Pima County Sheriff's Department are investigating her disappearance, and that the FBI is seeking information that will lead to the identity of the armed individual shown appearing to tamper with the front door camera the morning of her disappearance. So before getting into what changed in the last 48 hours, it is worth grounding everything in what remains officially established. Nancy Guthrie was last seen at her residence in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson on the evening of January 31st. Authorities believe she was taken in the early hours of February 1st. According to reporting that has remained consistent across major outlets, the front door camera disconnected at 1:47 a.m. Software detected a person on camera at 2:12 a.m. Nancy's pacemaker app disconnected from her phone at 2:28 a.m. Her relatives later went to the house, found she was missing, and called 911 shortly after noon. Those details continue to define the narrow window that matters most in this case, and nothing reported in the last 2 days has changed that timeline. That is one reason the Day 60 update matters even without announcing a new suspect. A case can change through confirmation as much as through discovery. When a local outlet updates the case at Day 60 and still says authorities believe Nancy was taken against her will, that means the core theory has not publicly shifted away from abduction. It means law enforcement has not walked back the seriousness of the original assessment. It also means that even after weeks of national coverage, public appeals, and forensic work, the official posture remains that Nancy did not simply vanish under ordinary circumstances. In a case where rumor has had plenty of space to grow, that kind of continuity matters. What also changed in the last 48 hours is the clarification about the body found in Scottsdale. In a case this visible, unrelated developments can create instant confusion online. People see a headline about an unidentified woman, connected emotionally to the most prominent unresolved case in Arizona, and suddenly a rumor starts moving faster than the facts. The Day 60 local update specifically said police determined that the body found in a Scottsdale canal had no apparent connection to the Nancy Guthrie case. That may sound like a small correction, but it is actually a very important public service detail. It prevented a new wave of speculation from attaching itself to a family that is already living through an unbearable level of uncertainty. It also showed that even now, 60 days in, a large part of responsible coverage is still separating this case from false or unrelated narratives. Another development repeated in the recent local coverage was the warning about fundraising scams. According to the Day 60 summary, the Pima County Sheriff's Department said there is no official GoFundMe or fundraising effort associated with the Guthrie investigation. That kind of warning says a lot about the environment surrounding the case. It shows that public attention has become large enough for opportunists to try to exploit it. It shows that the family's pain is happening in a climate where misinformation and imitation can attach themselves to real suffering. And it means viewers should be especially cautious about any claims that present themselves as official support channels unless they clearly come from established law enforcement or verified family communication. The other major update that falls within the current news cycle is Savannah Guthrie's planned return to the Today Show on April 6th. Reuters and the Associated Press both reported that NBC announced her return after a lengthy absence caused by the disappearance of her mother. That is not an investigative breakthrough, but it is still highly relevant to the public understanding of the case, because it shows how the family is trying to navigate life in the middle of an unresolved crisis. Reuters reported that Savannah described the tension of returning to a space associated with joy and lightness, while her family is still living through something so painful. AP likewise reported that she framed joy as a kind of protest and purpose under the circumstances. That does not change the facts of the investigation, but it does change the emotional context in which the public is receiving updates. It reminds people that while news coverage often moves from headline to headline, the family does not get to move on at the speed of the news cycle. And that emotional context matters because the public already heard Savannah speak in unusually direct terms about what her family found and how they interpreted it. AP reported that she said the back doors were propped open, her mother's phone and purse were left inside, blood was found on the front doorstep, and a security camera had been pulled away. She also said some ransom notes were fake, though she believed two were real. Those comments helped explain why the family immediately understood this, not as a routine missing person case, but as something much more serious. Yet even with that public detail, the family still does not have the answer it wants most. That tension, strong facts, high urgency, no public suspect, is exactly why the case continues to hold national attention. One of the most important things to say clearly, especially for a responsible video, is that the last 48 hours did not produce a public suspect, a public arrest, or a public confirmation of where Nancy is. That is the truth. And paradoxically, saying that plainly makes the story stronger, not weaker. Because this is not a case where viewers need speculation to understand the stakes. The confirmed facts are already enough. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. The FBI says she is a vulnerable adult who needs daily medication and has difficulty walking. Authorities believe she was taken against her will. The Bureau is still publicly seeking help identifying the individual shown in the footage from the home. The family is still appealing for answers. And as of the latest local update, the investigation remains active without a named public suspect. That reality carries more than enough weight on its own. The reason viewers keep circling back to the DNA angle is because it offers one of the few concrete paths that still feels capable of changing everything without warning. Earlier reporting from CBS said investigators had turned to forensic genetic genealogy to try to make the most of DNA evidence collected during the search. CBS also reported concerns from sources close to the investigation that some of the DNA recovered might not immediately produce a usable profile for standard database comparison, while another law enforcement source said low-level samples can sometimes be enhanced in the lab, though the process may take longer. There has not been a public announcement in the last 2 days saying that process has produced a breakthrough. But nothing in the recent reporting suggests investigators have abandoned that avenue either. If anything, the absence of a public shift reinforces the idea that the most consequential work may still be happening in the background, rather than in front of cameras. Even that is one of the hardest things for the public to absorb in a case like this. When the visible part of a case goes quiet, many people assume the case itself has gone quiet. But high-profile investigations often work in layers. First comes emergency response, securing the scene, establishing the timeline, releasing footage, and appealing for tips. Then comes the slower work. Interviews, digital review, evidence comparison, lab processing, and the careful testing of whether different pieces of information actually fit together. The public sees the first stage more easily because it is visible. The second stage is usually harder to measure because it often produces silence before it produces a result. And the Nancy Guthrie case seems to be sitting right in that difficult second stage now. That is also why the phrase "any day now" has to be used carefully. It is understandable that people feel that way. In a case where DNA, genealogy, surveillance, and an intensely focused timeline are all in play, it is easy to imagine that one lab result or one corroborated lead could suddenly change the direction of everything. And that may be true, but there is no public basis right now for saying a specific breakthrough is imminent. The responsible version of that thought is simpler and more accurate. This remains an active case. Advanced forensic work has been reported as part of the investigative strategy, and meaningful developments in that kind of environment can sometimes appear suddenly after a long stretch of public quiet. That is possibility. It is not proof. And preserving that distinction is one of the most important parts of responsible true crime coverage. The Day 60 update also matters because it reinforces just how long this uncertainty has lasted. The phrase 2 months changes how a case feels in the mind of the audience. At the beginning of a disappearance, attention is fueled by urgency. As time goes on, attention either fades or turns into a different kind of pressure, the pressure of endurance. How does a family keep appealing? How do investigators keep separating signal from noise? How does the public remain engaged without drifting into speculation or fatigue? The local Fox 10 update answered that, at least in part, by continuing to aggregate the basic verified points. Nancy is still missing. Authorities still believe she was taken against her will, yet the family is still offering a substantial reward. Savannah's return to television has been announced, and even unrelated developments like the Scottsdale discovery have to be publicly separated from this case to prevent confusion. That is what a case looks like when it is still alive, in both the investigative and public sense, even without a public breakthrough. There is another reason the latest updates deserve careful handling. Whenever a case reaches a milestone like Day 60, the public often becomes more vulnerable to theories that feel emotionally satisfying rather than evidentially grounded. People want a pattern. They want motive. They want a suspect. They want to believe the silence itself means something obvious. But silence can mean many things in a live investigation. It can mean evidence is still being processed. It can mean leads are being checked and discarded. It can mean investigators are protecting information. It can mean the most important public facts have not changed, even though the internal investigative picture is still moving. That is why the safest way to discuss Nancy Guthrie's case right now is to stay close to what officials and major outlets have actually reported, especially in the last 48 hours, rather than trying to force the case into a dramatic frame that the record does not support. And there is a practical reason for that restraint too. In monetized YouTube coverage, especially around true crime, exaggeration often creates short-term clicks at the cost of long-term credibility and ad safety. The strongest version of this story does not come from saying more than is known. It comes from showing why what is already known is so powerful. The FBI still has a reward posted. The Bureau still describes Nancy as a vulnerable adult needing daily medication. Authorities still believe she was taken against her will. The individual shown on the released footage still matters enough that the FBI continues to publicly seek information leading to that person's identity. No public suspect has been named. The family is still making emotional appeals. And in the last 2 days, law enforcement and local media have still had to correct public confusion and warn against scam fundraising. Those are real developments, and they are strong enough to hold an audience without crossing into unsupported claims. It is also worth remembering that the public record already contains enough emotionally charged facts that no extra sensationalism is needed. Reuters and AP both reported Savannah's return to Today, and both framed that decision against the backdrop of her mother's unresolved disappearance. AP reported Savannah's anguish and her statement that it is never too late to do the right thing. Reuters reported the emotional difficulty of stepping back into a nationally visible role while the case is still unresolved. Those details do something very important for viewers. They bring the story back to the human center. This is not simply a mystery with an interesting timeline. It is an unresolved disappearance with a family still trying to hold itself together in public while waiting for answers in private. The local Day 60 reporting also included a note that Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos told KOLD investigators now believe something may have happened weeks before Nancy vanished. Because that statement came through secondary local reporting and not a direct primary release in the materials reviewed here, it should be handled cautiously. It is worth noting only as a reported indication that investigators may still be examining pre-February 1st activity, not as a public conclusion. That distinction matters. In a responsible script, there is a big difference between saying investigators may be looking earlier in the timeline and saying they have publicly proved what happened earlier in the timeline. Based on the sources reviewed, only the first can be said safely. So what exactly has happened in the last 48 hours? And here is the cleanest answer. The case reached Day 60 in local coverage, reinforcing that Nancy has now been missing for 2 months. Authorities still publicly maintain that she was taken against her will. Police said a body found in Scottsdale has no apparent connection to her case, closing off one new line of rumor. Local coverage repeated a sheriff's warning that there is no official GoFundMe or fundraising effort tied to the investigation. NBC's previously announced update that Savannah Guthrie will return to the Today Show on April 6th remains part of the public picture. And beyond those updates, there has still been no public suspect announced, no arrest announced, and no publicly confirmed breakthrough on the forensic side. That is the current state of the case. That may sound like a modest list, but it is not modest in what it means. Because each item tells us something important. The Day 60 marker tells us the case remains unresolved but active. The Scottsdale clarification tells us law enforcement and local outlets are still actively managing false connections and rumor spillover. The fundraising warning tells us the public attention around the case has become large enough to attract exploitation. Savannah's return date tells us the family is being forced to make life decisions in the middle of ongoing uncertainty. And the absence of a public suspect tells us the hardest question in the case remains unanswered. Put together, those updates do not shrink the story. They sharpen it. They show a case that is still very much alive, still emotionally urgent, and still suspended between what is known and what is not yet publicly knowable. The strongest way to understand the Nancy Guthrie case right now is not as a story that has stalled, but as a story that has entered a quieter, more difficult phase. The visible drama of the first weeks, the footage release, the reward, the emotional interviews, the ransom note discussion, the rush of public attention, has now given way to the slow pressure of endurance. The family is still waiting. Investigators are still working. The FBI's public materials are still active. Local media are still issuing daily-style updates and clarifications. And the public still does not have a name, a public theory of motive from law enforcement, or a resolution. That kind of middle phase is often where responsible coverage matters most, because it is the moment when viewers are most tempted to trade evidence for certainty. This case does not justify that trade, it demands the opposite. And that is why, for this moment, the best reporting voice is the simplest one. Nancy Guthrie remains missing. Authorities still believe she was taken against her will. The FBI still seeks information leading to the identity of the individual seen appearing to tamper with the front door camera. The case has now reached 2 months without a public suspect. In the last 2 days, police have publicly ruled out a connection between her case and a body found in Scottsdale. Local coverage has repeated a warning about scam fundraising, and Savannah Guthrie's April 6 return to the Today Show has remained part of the national conversation surrounding the family's ordeal. Those are the facts. They are serious. They are current. And they are more than enough to explain why this remains one of the most closely watched unresolved cases in the country. If a major public development comes next, it will matter because it will finally change one of the few things that has stayed constant across the last 60 days: the absence of public identity. Until then, the most honest way to tell this story is to stay where the evidence and the reporting actually are, not one step ahead of them. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. The investigation is still active. The family is still asking for help. And as of now, the public still knows enough to understand the gravity of the case, but not enough to say how it ends.